Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic host of Bachelor Nation News. In this video, we have Tino Franco backs out of Nick Viall's podcast, Viall Files. He was scheduled to do Nick's podcast this week. Your traditional tell-all after going on the show, and long-form conversations always seem to be a good way to recover from the PR mess that can be an edit on the show. Not to say that edit wasn't right or deserved. As we all watched live, Tino and Rachel never really had a moment of recovery from their relationship. It was just a lot of half explanations and things we'll never get to know. So I always think it's good to have long-form conversations, but that doesn't mean they have to happen right away. We'll get into this story. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals. I'm going to be live on Patreon right after this. If you want behind-the-scenes content, patreon.com/Dave Neal. So here's the clip of Nick mentioning, oh yeah, by the way, Tino's not going to be on this episode. Of course, a few days ago, Nick had promoted that Tino was going to be on this episode. From my sources in Tino's camp, he's not going to be doing any podcasts anytime soon. But the day may come when he's ready to tell his story. I always say you got to remove your emotions, which is very hard to do, from your story, because it's hard to tell your story when you're defensive, when you're angry. And it's for this same reason that whenever there's some sort of scandal and somebody apologizes, a lot of times an audience will go, that apology wasn't good enough. They don't sound like they're sorry, this, that, and the other. And I totally get it. You have to go through all these different stages of feeling like the whole world is attacking you. For all we know about Tino, he might not feel like he did something that was that wrong. Now, that doesn't mean that that's accurate, but we don't know the whole story. Here's what Nick has to say.
Means, as you probably have figured out, that Tino will not be this week. As I teased last week that we're going to have the exclusive with Tino, I have not given out hope that that still will happen. I've had a chance to talk to him incredibly briefly, but right now he's taking care of his mental health, is my understanding. And as much as I certainly would love to have him on here and have him, answer some of the questions I know you guys are so interested in learning about, I think it's really important for everyone to, just allow Tino to take care of his mental health, regardless of how you might feel about that situation. And so we wish him the best, certainly wish Rachel the best as well. But I think it's really important that he, just gets his heart right and gets back to a place. And if he eventually feels comfortable to share his story, he is certainly welcome here. And I am still very optimistic that that can happen at some point. But as disappointing as it might be, trust me when I say Billy Eichner more than makes up for it. And Jason for Gabby's, I hate saying Gabby's Jason, but Jason from The Bachelorette will be next week. Incredible interview. We already did it. He answers a lot of questions. That will be the following Thursday.
All right, so that's your sort of explanation of why Tino's not going to be on the show. Look, if you're Nick here as a producer and podcast host, he's got to be bummed out. That's a huge conversation. All eyeballs and earballs we're going to be on. Earballs is right. All earlobes we're going to be perked up for that conversation. What we need to remember as an audience in the gladiator sport of Bachelor is that there are bigger things at play than just hearing what the tea might be. We'll get that down the line when things are better, when his mental health is there and he understands, where it has more of a firm ground of where he's at. For those that think that Nick is like, a lot of people have said this, that Nick's podcast would do a lot of damage to Rachel by having Tino share his story. I think Rachel's okay. I think Rachel, and again, I don't know this personally, but I think she's got a lot of support. A lot of times there's those types that empathize with the villain. I'm just like that. And it's not a sex-based, gender-based thing. I empathized with Shanae big time, even though she was the villain on that season, because I saw a whole audience of people and I saw the pendulum swing past what I think is a just thing. Now you might say, of course it's just to hold someone accountable. I understand that on a mano-a-mano, man-to-man, woman-to-woman, one-on-one situation. But whenever the show gets involved, they just push all their might on the scale down of justice, and it always squashes the victim. The villain here. And the villain in this scenario is Tino. Now, that doesn't mean just because you're on TV means you get a pass. It just means we have to do a better job of just taking some judgment out of it and being like, all right, do we think we would have done better? Now, I don't cheat. I'm not a cheater, but I don't know what situation he was in or Shanae's or others. Just because we watched it doesn't mean we know how they would have played out in that environment because we haven't been
cheated
there.
on.
So here's what Nick had to say about cheating. I believe this came out 4 days ago. So this was obviously in part regarding the Tino situation, but cheaters in general.
You need to stop asking them why they cheated on you. I know, you probably think I'm nuts, but the why doesn't matter.
It's a nice shirt he's
the
got
why
on.
is they're a cheater. Just to recap, if someone cheats, it's a reflection of their character, not the person who was cheated on. In truth, you don't want to know why. Your ego does.
And a lot of people say, oh, they drove me to cheat. And it's like, look, there's no excuse for Tino. They've both admitted that they weren't on a break, and whatever issues he has will be those that he has to deal with. And Rachel's not to blame for that. There might be other aspects of the relationship where Rachel's to blame for something, but to say that someone was driven to do something, that's just like sort of an argument I don't think is worth having.
Because the people who cheat, they have their reason. Now, before your brain gets all twisted up in knots, it's important to remember there is often a difference between a reason and a justification. And I know you all know this because I know you all are watching Law & Order. In every episode, there's a crime that's committed, and the people solving the crime are like, what was the motive? They're like, they did it for the money. And they're like, oh, right, well, now you're still going to jail.
Yeah, I mean, knowing the motive is still good with cheating. It helps you know, like, where your triggers would be. Like, what, like, did he cheat because he drinks too much and he needs to learn? Or some people are sex addicts. Some people are finding fame for the first time and he needed a validation he didn't know. None of those issues make cheating right, but it's good to know what your triggers are so that you can learn to avoid them and not be reactionary to them. If you really, I'm not saying Tino is this because I have no idea, but if you really do have a drinking problem, the solution isn't learning how to cure a hangover. The solution's sobriety. For most people. Now, some people might have a problem drinking in certain situations, but not in others. All right, let's just remove ourselves from those situations, and then maybe you'll be fine. So finding that trigger is going to be what's important for someone like Tino, and feeling that and understanding where that Band-Aid needs to be put.
Reason didn't justify their action. They're still going to be punished, but they had their reasons. And when you ask a cheater why they cheated on you, their answer is going to have something to do with you or something you did or didn't do that's not going to make you feel any better. You didn't pay attention to me. I'm less attracted to you. We stopped being intimate. I don't feel seen around you. Those are all reasons. None of them are justifications. Again, the only truth about cheaters is they cheated because they lacked the character to do the right thing.
So yeah, any of those reasons would be justifications for breaking up or having difficult conversations, saying, we don't have enough intimacy, you don't give me the quality time I've asked for. Yeah, you just have to get to the point, if you're about to cheat, to just call the relationship off and have that type of conversation. So Nick has been criticized for the way he discussed Rachel so far in the season. But I think he's doing as good a job as one could do to offer critical opinions without looking like he's taking a side. That's the only way I can put it. Here's what he had to say about Rachel.
You're right. She felt embarrassed from her friends and family and let that snowball into something bigger. Where to me, what I heard from Avon was, yeah, when I said I was ready to get engaged, like I am ready. Like as a man, at however old he is, he's ready to get engaged. That's why he's here. And then he can see a future with, he's thinking about these things. And, nothing would, think about it. If you're someone who's like, I'm in love with this person, I know I want to spend the rest of my life with them. This engagement, I'm a little unsure. Him checking it, Rachel's response to me would almost make me feel more disconnected. Because Rachel could have said, all right, Rachel's language, the whole conversation, there's a very distinct difference between Rachel's language and Avon's language.
All right, so, we don't need to listen to this any farther, but basically criticizing Rachel for the way in which she communicates. Again, not an excuse for Tino cheating. But clearly they both are suffering in one way or another from the fallout of the way this season went down. Tino's posted a few things on his Instagram, but not much. 7 weeks ago, he posted this Midnight in Paris shot. This might have been before Cheatgate. We don't really know for sure. When he posted this, he could have still been trying to win her back. He posted this video 187 weeks ago, right? 3.5 years ago. And this is what's so crazy. Even though he posted this Camp Ronald McDonald charity video, people comment on it. Are you effing kidding me? I knew it was something about you that I didn't like. These are just the worst. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say this. These people are actually, in my eyes, just as bad as what Tino's doing, because they're leaving their opinion. I mean, it's just sickening to me. It's just sickening to me. But anyway, you can be a good guy and charitable and all these things and still have blind spots. Here's Tino sharing his charity that he had 3 years ago. Or his participation in a charity.
Special this place is.
Here he comes up next.
If you really want to be a great counselor, you have to be the best person you can be, right? You really have to.
It really is
Here's
the
Tino.
most influential place I think you will ever volunteer at.
All right, so he's obviously a charitable guy. I'm sure to his family he's, obviously not in the same positions he was in with Rachel, where you with your family, they love you no matter what. I'm sure he's a guy that has a lot of great qualities. It doesn't take away the cheating aspect, but it just goes to say you failed this test. Figure out and spend the time that you need to spend figuring out why, so it doesn't happen again, because this silly thing happens with the world that we live in. When you don't resolve a situation, you might keep dating the same a-hole over and over. You might keep getting fired, or you might keep doing something stupid. If you don't resolve the situation, the world will keep presenting that situation like a video game until it is you do resolve it. And let's hope that he figures out what his problems are and are able to talk about it in a way that can kind of help himself and others in the process. Let me know what you guys think. More content coming your way. I'll be on Patreon at patreon.com/Dave Neal right after this. Bye, guys.